competition says everything. And for the 37th time, the ultimate prize in strength athletics will be awarded. But before the trophy is lifted, the strongmen will be challenged by a series of physically and mentally grueling events. Who will show the heart, speed, endurance, and power of a champion? Who will stand alone and be crowned as the world's strongest man? We'll find out next. For the 37th time, the Commerce World's Strongest Man final will be contested. We move to Venice Beach for the first of 6 events in the Commerce World's Strongest Man final, the loading race.
Now, carrying 3 220-pound tires and placing them on platforms 15 meters away would be difficult in any environment. But when you introduce ankle-deep sand, it significantly ups the degree of difficulty. It's going to be brutal, especially since this event has never been done with tires.
Here's the first of 4 heats. Warwick Brant of Australia reached the final as one of the 2 wild cards. The other wild card recipient was American Dave Ostlund of Minnesota. The 32-year-old is making his first appearance in the final since '09. And filling out the heat is 7-time Austria's strongest man, Martin Wildauer, who's in his first final at the age of 26.
Now, Brent, as we mentioned, the loading race has never been done with tires before, but all of the strongmen did have an opportunity to get acquainted with these tires in the familiarization period. So because of that, we could see some unique techniques here. Right out of the gate, Wildauer's looking good.
Well, Ostlund is known as the thinking man, strong man, and he knows everything about the history and the ins and outs of this, and you can see he's off to a great start.
Yeah, Wildauer had trouble with that first transition, but Dave Ostlund, smooth, slow, and steady, is in the lead.
Second tire on the platform. Ostlund has the lead in the center lane as he trudges through the sand.
Warwick Brant on that far side struggling a little bit as you see Ostlund, the first to have the third tire up. He's got that single hand carry. Warwick Brant in that back, but here comes Wildauer on the outside. But it's going to be Ostlund first to the podium.
Dave Ostlund from Minnesota finishes first in the heat and sets the early pace. His friends and family loving it. And Wildauer up to get second. Ostlund in 49.66, Wildauer 51.38. Warwick Brant third in the heat, still 9 athletes remaining.
The sand definitely took its toll on the athletes in Heat 1, but it was Dave Ostlund who had an error-free race while both Wildauer and Brant had issues.
On to Heat 2. In his third trip to the world's strongest man, 33-year-old Jerry Pritchett of Arizona. He's in the final for the first time. Eddie Hall is another first-time finalist. At 26, the Englishman, he's known for his static strength, so he'll have to prove himself at events like this. J.F. Caron is the only representative of Canada in the final. The Quebec native finished 8th 2 years ago.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what, if anything, these guys learned from that first heat. Oh, right now, Eddie Hall, look at that, going with the hula hoop technique right out of the gate.
We haven't seen that yet, and it appears to be working for Hall.
Caron the first to the table. Eddie steps out of his hula hoop, throws it up. And Caron making Canada proud, but the American Pritchett is struggling.
The problem with Hall's technique is the transition. Meantime, Caron taking advantage.
And regardless of what it is you're carrying, in the loading race, transitions are key.
And now with trouble getting it up on the platform, Caron finally able to balance. He's got a slight lead here on Eddie Hall.
And Pritchett at the top of your screen, still off the pace.
20 seconds to go.
J.F. Caron to the sand. Same for Eddie Hall. And Pritchett out of nowhere in the far lane. And he's going to win the heat. What a turn of events in Heat 2. Jerry Pritchett will move into third in 53.23 here in the loading race. And disappointing for Eddie Hall. He'll be in 6th.
Brent, that deep Venice Beach sand claims a couple more victims here in Heat 2. Caron and Eddie Hall, the hula hooper, had the platforms in sight but couldn't stay on their feet. And the beneficiary was Pritchett, who made it through relatively unscathed.
Well, from Swindon, England, Lawrence Shahlaei is now a three-time finalist at 313 pounds. He's the lightest athlete in the final. His countryman, Terry Hollands, is a little bigger at 6'6", 397. This is Hollands' record-setting 9th consecutive year in the final. And it's just the second appearance in the final for the 6'6" and 350-pound Mike Burke of the United States, but he's a genuine contender for the title.
Take your position. Hands off, Mike.
And a good start in the near lane for the American Mike Burke.
But Mike Burke's feet are moving quite a bit quicker. He gets to the platform first and kind of a hip check there to get that tire up. Look how great that transition was.
Time to beat 49.66 here in heat number 3 of the loading race.
Lawrence Shahlaei falling behind here early. Don't count out Terry Hollands. Remember, you see a mistake there by Mike Burke. That's going to allow Hollands to catch up.
One more tire for Burke. He's got 19 seconds to get down and place it to take the lead.
Shahlaei missed the table a couple times. That's going to cost him. But Mike Burke's going to get to this table first, and he's going to win this heat.
Mike Burke into the lead in the loading race. Coming up to get second will be Hollands here in this heat. And Lawrence Shahlaei will struggle to third and stop the clock at 55.92. But Burke goes into the lead in the loading race in 41.85. Terry Hollands moves into 4th overall into 52.34. And Shahlaei will be 8th, 55.92.
Mike Burke was really fast getting to the tires from the ground to the platforms, but had problems placing the final 2 tires, and that time loss could be costly with the 3 biggest superstars in the sport coming up in the next heat.
Final heat in the loading race. Hafthor Bjornsson of Iceland has finished 3rd the last 2 years, and in addition to his strongman success, he appeared in Season 4 of Game of Thrones. With 3 championships, 5 runner-up finishes, and countless records, Zydrunas Savickas is a legend. The 37-year-old has made it known he wants his title back. And this is the man who has it. Brian Shaw of the United States, 6'8", 420. He's won a pair of titles, including in China last year.
Well, Brent, what we've seen from the first 3 heats, it's going to be the strong man that makes the least amount of mistakes that could prevail here, because all these guys are stupid strong. Look at Hafthor in that far lane, getting to the platform first.
Hafthor looks like an Olympic sprinter in that far lane. Shaw's in 3rd right now, and Hafthor continues his momentum.
Yeah, and he's also the first competitor we've seen put the tire on his left shoulder. All the other strong men put it on their right shoulders, and look at Hafthor tearing down the lane. He's an animal.
220 pounds, and he is ripping through the sand.
Hands off, Thor!
And Hafthor Bjornsson will win the loading race. Savickas got second. Shaw got to get the hands off, and now he stops the clock. A couple of small errors really costing Shaw not the start he wanted. But Hafthor Bjornsson takes the loading race in 36.07.
In second place,
Savickas gets second, 38.49.
Yeah!
And Brian Shaw will get 4th overall in this event, 44.18.
Brian's technique a little bit off, but Hafthor Bjornsson's wasn't. He attacked the course from the second that whistle blew, and the sand that caused problems for so many other people never really seemed to bother the big guy from Iceland.
Hafthor Bjornsson's time of 36.07 seconds gave him the victory in the loading race and 12 points towards his overall score. Zydrunas Savickas was second, Mike Burke was 3rd, and it wasn't the start Brian Shaw wanted for his title defense. He finished 4th. The Commerce Flashback takes us back to 2008, when American Derek Poundstone was on the verge of claiming the title. One small bottle opened the door for Mariusz Pudzianowski of Poland. Pudzianowski seized upon it to earn a record 5th World's Strongest Man Championship. We remain in Venice Beach in Venice, California for the Commerce World's Strongest Man Final. The next event is the overhead medley.
And it's going to take major shoulder strength to get this one done. First, it's 2 presses of a 230-pound dumbbell. And if you somehow get by that, then it's 2 reps of a 360-pound axle.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
Eddie Hall of England finished 12th in the loading race. So he'll be looking for some redemption here.
Also
His countryman Lawrence Shahlaei didn't fare much better in event 1. He finished 11th. Half of the 12 finalists have already posted their scores. And it's Canada's JF Caron leading with 3 reps in 46.30 seconds. Australia's Warwick Brant is second.
Eddie Hall is a traditional, very good presser, so I would expect him to do well here. And Shahlaei to get the first dumbbell up, but also the first one to fail, Brent. He didn't get credit for that because he didn't fully lock out.
Eddie Hall does get credit for his first, so Shahlaei up and now gets his first.
That's going to be costly for Shahlaei in both time and energy. Eddie Hall's patience may pay off.
Right onto the axle for both men.
Even with that extra rep, Lawrence Shahlaei, the first using that European split grip to get it up to his chest.
360-pound axle. Shahlaei the first to get it up. One more for each man.
These guys are really feeling it now. They both have the monkey on their back. This is where that endurance comes in. Costly mistake by Eddie Hall there. Couldn't get it up. Forced to drop it, and Shahlaei will finish first.
From England.
So Lawrence Shahlaei begins in the lead in the overhead medley, 4 reps in 57.44. Eddie Hall only gets 3 reps into 40.17.
Brent, we all know that pressing the dumbbell takes shoulder and arm strength, but just look how well he utilized his legs and hips to get the lockout. Technique, once again, proves to be the differentiator for Lawrence Shahlaei.
We go from an All-England matchup to an All-American one. Mike Burke of Aurora, Colorado comes in here in 3rd place overall. Brian Shaw from Fort Lupton, Colorado. The defending champion is in 4th overall.
And Brent, these 2 behemoths are training partners, so they're all too familiar with each one's ability. This should be a fun watch.
Lift. Down.
Look at that, it's synchronized overhead medley. They were almost identical on that first lift.
230-pound dumbbell, and they both get the second rep and onto the 360-pound axle.
But Brian Shaw got finished more quickly. Mike Burke trying to get it up there, but Brian's lower body, that leg drive and explosion could be the difference for him here. He's also using the double overhand grip. Most competitors don't have that strength.
And Brian Shaw into the lead. And Mike Burke not far behind. Impressive for both Americans.
With all 4 repetitions.
All 4 reps in 29.02. Brian Shaw into the lead here in the overhead medley. While Mike Burke goes into second in 30.58.
Michael, Isabella, I love you guys.
Brian Shaw really seemed to find his groove there, and if you're going to be the world's strongest man, it helps to have a training partner that's going to push you. Brian Shaw has just that in Mike Burke, and it works in the competition as well.
Well, if Cedrunas' goal is to leave California with a 4th championship, he's off to a good start. He's in 2nd place after the first event. But the 6'9" Icelander next to him is a big threat to derail his title hopes. Hafthor Bjornsson won the loading race, and you can see his confidence starting to grow.
Yeah, Savitskas has no shortage of power, but the dumbbell's cumbersome, so it's going to demand some flexibility in his shoulders.
The score to beat here is the 4 reps in 29.02 seconds put up by Brian Shaw.
Yeah, Hafthor giving Big Z a run for his money. But we got to remember, Big Z's a 3-time champ for a reason.
Onto the axle. They need 2 reps here.
That is ridiculous for him to be able to do that. Just look how strong he is. He gets it up and presses with the quickness and locks it out.
Incredible. Savitskas wins, and Bjornsson will get second.
And Brent, what's amazing is that both of these competitors beat Brian Shaw for the second straight event. That's going to hurt him down the stretch.
Bjornsson, 4 reps, 28.46, and he's the runner-up in the overhead medley. And Savickas, the winner, 26.42.
So impressed with Zydrunas Savickas. Look at this incredible pressing power. Big Z pressed 360 pounds with ease, and that followed 2 huge dumbbell presses and another rep with the axle.
5 athletes completed all 4 reps, but it was 3-time champion Zydrunas Savickas who did it quickest. His time was 26.42. Hafthor Bjornsson followed up a win by a second-place finish here. The USA's Brian Shaw and Mike Burke were in 3rd and 4th, respectively. After 2 events, 2 athletes share first place. Iceland's Bjornsson, the 25-year-old with a world of promise, and Lithuania's Savickas, who's done it all. Each have 23 points. Americans Burke and Shaw are 4 points back. When we return, the Commerce World's Strongest Man. Watch out below, because there will be some aerial fireworks above Venice Beach. The crowd-pleasing keg toss is up next, as the challenges to the planet's best strength athletes just keep on coming. Welcome back to the iconic Venice Beach in California for the Commerce World's Strongest Man final. The 3rd of 6 events for the 12 finalists is the keg toss. And Aaron, this one generally provides plenty of entertainment.
That's right, Brent. Who doesn't like to see a bunch of kegs sailing through the air? It's like you get to relive college. The strongmen need to launch the 8 barrels ranging in weight from 40 to 55 pounds over a 16-foot wall.
That is the 26-year-old Martin Wildauer. The Austrian is in 11th place after 2 events. So there's work to be done by Wildauer. And with 7 athletes still to come, the current co-leaders are Australia's Warwick Brandt and Eddie Hall of England. Both guys threw 6 kegs up and over the bar. I'm going to come out and say it, Aaron. This is my favorite event in World's Strongest Man.
I think it is most people's, and it certainly is mine. Now, Wildauer got some early breaks in the qualifying rounds, but one of the things you have to do is conserve energy, and it looks like he overthrew a couple of those first kegs. He's got to be careful here.
On to the 50-pounders. The second one, no problem, and he's on to the 55s. Rejected on that one by the bar.
Just caught the lip, and that's where that conservation of energy can come in handy.
Wildauer can't quite get it to crawl over, and he checks out. So close. 6 kegs for Martin Wildauer. But coming up too short of finishing.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it all fell apart. Martin cruised through the first 6 kegs with no problems at all, but then it seemed to hit the wall literally and figuratively when he attempted the 55-pound barrel.
From Edina, Minnesota, this is Dave Ostlund in his first final since 2009. Ostlund is tied for 9th in the overall standings.
Dave was saying that he had been practicing the keg toss in the snow before coming out here to sunny California. I'd say these are probably the more favorable conditions. What do you say, Brent?
Yeah, I think so. And that one able to pop over off the bar onto the 45s, and this one clears easily.
Yeah, you wonder right there if some of these kegs hitting the bar shake his confidence a little bit. Look how long he's looking over his shoulder to see if they make it over.
That bar is being very kind so far to Ostlund, and again, onto the 2 55-pounders.
Takes so much power generation. He's got strength, but he picked a bad arc. And Brent, look at the way he taps the keg down to settle that lead shot that's inside of it to help him throw it straight. This is a big attempt.
Not that time, and he's done at 6. Dave Ostlund, the co-leader in the keg toss with 6.
Dave was a beneficiary of a bunch of favorable bounces off the bar in the early going, but that luck seemed to run out when he got to the 55-pound kegs, but he is tied for the lead.
That takes us to Terry Hollins from Dartford, England. So far, Terry's 9th straight year in the final hasn't gone as well as some of his other appearances. He's tied for 5th overall, and he's well off the pace.
This will be an opportunity to Terry to kind of improve his standing so far. But look at him, man. He's chilling walking up to that first 40-pound keg.
2 men have gotten 6. We'll see if he can get past that.
Got a little back pedal technique. Instead of hopping, he's kind of taking one step at a time and overthrowing these kegs a little bit.
He's going more for number than speed here.
And it's paying off so far. But Brent, that one was grossly underthrown.
That was a rocket, and now he's got to chase down that second 50-pounder and shake the sand out.
Yeah, that's going to cost him some time, some recovery time, and definitely energy.
If he can get 7, though, he's the leader, and there's 6. So he's the co-leader at the moment with 2 others.
And here's where that missed throw starts to hurt him.
And he bows out after 6 as the co-leader, his wife Lauren, looking on.
Terry Holland.
Terry was never able to find a consistent release point or trajectory, it seemed, and as a result, he had some barrels that cleared the wall by a couple feet, some bounce over, and one that could have been described as a air ball.
Here's the USA's Mike Burke. Mike in his second straight final at the age of 39, and he's tied for 3rd place overall entering this event.
No question, Mike's explosive and athletic enough to win this event. He's got to be pretty good, though, not make any mistakes.
A couple of rockets on the 40-pounders onto the 45s.
No!
That hurts him right there, Brent. That was just a poor angle, but look how he's overthrowing these. We talked about that explosion, and it's certainly on display for Mike Burke right now.
All right, he's tied for the lead. This one to go into sole possession, and he does. On to the 8th, and he got them all. Your new leader is Mike Burke. Eight kegs in 28.94, and Burke has set the mark to beat. That's how it's done. Mike Burke had one small mistake, but didn't panic and worked his way through the rest of the kegs. He's the new leader. The USA's Brian Shaw, the defending champion, enters the keg toss tied for 3rd place. Historically, Brian has owned this event, so this could be where he moves up the scoreboard.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely looking forward to see his explosive, athletic, raw power.
He needs it.
Ready?
Look at that, Brent. He's throwing the kegs in place. He's not taking that hop step back. He had 3 kegs in the air before 6 seconds had passed.
And 2 in the air at one time, all the way through.
Look at those 55-pounders. Look at that one sail way over the top.
16.59 and into the lead. What a show put on by Shaw.
With 8 kegs in an amazing time of 16.59 from the USA.
Yeah, that's the first time we've seen B. Shaw a little chippy. It's clear, Brent, he thinks he's right back in this.
Not done yet, baby. Not done yet.
I think those 8 barrels equaled one very forceful declaration by Brian Shaw stating that he can't be counted out.
And this is one of the guys that Brian Shaw is going to have to chase down if he wants to win a 3rd title. It's Iceland's Hafthor Bjornsson, the co-leader along with Savickas.
Well, Shaw just put some pressure on him. Let's see how Hafthor responds.
Okay.
It's not a matter of if he's going to get 8, it's if he can beat Shaw's time.
Yeah, and Thor is equally as explosive and powerful as Shaw, and he's pushing him pretty good here, Brent. Look at that. He's not even looking over his shoulder to see if those kegs are flying over. He knows it.
Final keg into the sand.
Brent, that line drive on that last keg beat Brian Shaw's time by 0.24 seconds. That might have been the difference.
New leader of the keg toss with 16.35 seconds from Iceland, Hafthor Bjornsson.
16.35, you said it. Shaw's final keg had so much trajectory on it, and Hafthor's got down quick.
We're used to being amazed by some of the things these guys pull off, but I never expected Brian Shaw's time to get beaten. But Hafthor did just that.
3 times world's strongest strongest man.
Well, Brian Shaw and Hafthor Bjornsson just put up unbelievable sub-17-second performances. Can Zydrunas Savickas of Lithuania do the same? The three-time champ is the final competitor here in the keg toss.
There's no question that Big Z's explosive and powerful as those previous two, but can he be as athletic? Brent, that's a costly mistake. You have to wonder if Big Z was feeling that pressure put on him by Brian Shaw and Hafthor Bjornsson.
No way at this point that he can win. We'll see if he can get third. He misses there.
Look how he throws that keg sideways. Doesn't even use the handles.
Big Z with 2 remaining. Final keg, Zydrunas Savickas in 30.42. And for Big Z, some uncharacteristic mistakes here in the keg toss really cost him. He will settle for 4th, 8 kegs in 30.42. Hafthor Bjornsson gets his 2nd victory here in the keg toss. His time of 16.35 was 0.24 better than Brian Shaw, who has to be wondering what it'll take to get a win of his own. Mike Burke claimed 3rd place. Zydrunas Savickas was 4th.
Look at that smile, Brent. Hafthor's got every right to be happy. He just completed one of the most impressive feats of strength we've seen in a while.
After 3 of the 6 events, it's Bjornsson who now is positioned as the leader on the overall scoreboard with 35 points. Savickas has 32 points in 2nd. Shaw is in 3rd place, just 5 points off the lead, and certainly remains in striking distance. In 4th, it's Burke. We move on to a venue which is no stranger to world-class entertainment and sporting events. It's the Commerce Hotel and Resort, situated just minutes from downtown Los Angeles and just north of Orange County. We're at the halfway point of the World's Strongest Man Final. The 4th of 6 challenges is one of our staples, the truck pull.
Brent, the 2 trucks combined to weigh a gargantuan 53,000 pounds. The idea is to get them across the finish line 25 meters away. The difficulty, however, comes from the cabs resting on an incline, and all those tires mean an incredible amount of friction on the ground.
Dave Oslin, the American, comes into the truck pull in a tie for 7th place in the overall standings. 6 athletes have already recorded scores, but none have completed the 25-meter course. Austria's Martin Wildauer came closest to finishing at 24.2 meters.
Well, Dave certainly got the mass and size and lower body strength. He's 6'7", 350, Brent. But this event is much harder than it was in the qualifying rounds because there's 2 big rigs he's got to move.
Yeah, 26,500 pounds in the qualifying round, and now you mentioned the 53,000 here in the final.
In the qualifying rounds, remember, it was only 1 truck, and by this point, they were all moving pretty good, but Dave Oslin's still trying to get some momentum going. Brent, even here, when he crosses the 10-meter mark, that 2nd truck that's in the background, the burgundy one, that one's still on an incline. This is an incredible feat by Oslin. Look at Oslin. He's finally got both those trucks moving as fast as many of the strong men could only get one of the trucks going.
And Dave Oslin across the finish in 50.10. So a solid early mark set by the American from Minnesota, Dave Oslin.
And you can see just how hard Oslin had to work to get the trucks moving off the incline where they were parked. In the end, I think it's as much relief as anything else when that whistle blows.
That'll bring us to the guy who's been England's top strongman for a decade now. Terry Hollands enters the truck pull in 5th place overall, and Terry can make up some ground here as he's one of the true masters of the truck pull.
Terry's 6'6", 397 pounds. This is a big man's event, so you're right, Brent. This is a good opportunity for him here. Look at those big arms tugging on that rope as he methodically starts to drive that power plant of his lower body. He's very in line here. He's got to keep breathing to make sure he gives his muscles that much needed oxygen.
As if the job isn't difficult enough, how about getting baked by the sun on black asphalt here?
No question. He's a pretty clean-shaven Terry Hollands, too. But impressively, Brent, he's got more momentum than even Dave Oslin did.
Time to beat 50.10, and he's going to shatter it. Terry Hollins into 43.35, and then the oxygen. And the Englishman with the new time to beat.
Getting some O2 there, and we told you that Terry knows what he's doing with the truck pull. Being 6'6" and 397 pounds helped him apply the force he needed to generate the surge at the start of the race and to begin building up that momentum, which carried him right through the finish line.
Well, Mike Burke has shown he can hang with the big guys, and really, he should probably be considered one of the stars of the sport. Right now, the Colorado strongman is in 4th place overall.
Take the strain.
Brent, you hear the referee there say, take the strain. I think it's as much instructional as it is a warning. See Burke there with his vertical approach again. What that allows him to do right there, he's using it again, is use both of his hips and turns a dynamic movement event into a static movement event, which can give him some much needed early momentum.
Hollins set the time to beat at 43.35.
See Burke here struggling to get started a little bit. Takes a pause there to try and get some much needed momentum. That lactic acid's really starting to build up in his legs. He's got to get some O2 in there to feed that body.
The American Mike Burke.
He just seemed to have downshifted. As soon as that second big rig got off the incline, he started picking up some momentum.
And Burke crosses the finish in 53.51. 10 seconds off the lead, and that time for Burke puts him into 3rd place, but still a bunch of talented guys to come.
Yeah, and you see the disappointment there from Burke. He trains for this all year long. That wasn't his best run.
Mike Burke just never found the speed he was looking for, but with the 53,000 pounds in tow, I'm not sure he can really be blamed. A solid but unspectacular showing for the American.
Ladies and gentlemen, please
up next, it'll be the two-time champion Brian Shaw, who's got some ground to make up if he wants to defend his title. Brian is in 3rd place, 5 points off the lead.
Yeah, there's no time to be playing around. This isn't the preseason or a warm-up. This is the final. He's got to go all out here.
Ready? Give me a nod.
Look at that, Brent, a triple strain to get those 2 semi-trucks, the 53,000 pounds, past its initial inertia off of that incline. Great start for the reigning champ.
The time to beat 43.35 for Shaw.
Listen to him grunt there, Brent. He knows what's at stake. He's given it everything he's got, and it's looking pretty dang good.
Brian Shaw closing in on the finish line. And Shaw across. And he's your new leader. 40.56. Brian Shaw goes in front.
Brian Shaw stepping up again. Now that's the heart of a champion, Brent. You could hear how much effort went into that truck pull. Brian was absolutely grinding trying to get it done. He knew he had to have a good result here.
He did just that. Now Zydrunas Savickas is a guy capable of challenging Brian Shaw's time. The Lithuanian comes into the event in 2nd place in the overall standings.
To win this event, Brent, you have to have power, experience, technique, and endurance. And Big Z's got all of that.
Ready?
You hear Big Z grunting there. Only a single strain and a much more horizontal approach to the beginning.
Big Z trying to beat Shaw's time of 40.56.
Yeah, and he won this event in the qualifying rounds. Let's see if that single strain, more horizontal approach brings them as much success here.
Zydrunas Savickas, one of the best of all time in World's Strongest Man.
Look at those powerful arms, those biceps pulling on that rope, and those huge calves and quads and glutes and hammies of the Lithuanian giant.
He will come up short of the top time, but nevertheless, solid effort from Big Z, 44.15. Good enough to put him into 3rd place for the moment here in the truck pull.
If Zydrunas Savickas has trouble getting the trucks up to speed, you know it's a difficult event. Now, he eventually found some speed, but not as much as he wanted.
Here's the man who's been the star of the show so far, Hafthor Bjornsson of Iceland. The 25-year-old is the overall leader and has produced a couple of otherworldly performances. And he might need another to beat Brian Shaw's time of 40.56 here in the truck pull.
You see the double strain there? 6'9", 397, definitely got the mass. Brent, when he gets vertical like that, he's not only using those big biceps, but he's using his mass and his shoulders and that gravity to literally will and force those two semi-trucks forward.
Trying to beat Shaw's time of 40.56 seconds.
Bjornsson showed up to this competition in the best condition he's probably ever been in, Brent. These last 10 meters of this course is where he's going to need it.
Going to be close at the finish. 40.56 is the mark. And Bjornsson will come up just short. Nevertheless, it's good enough for second place in this event for Bjornsson. 42.12. Brian Shaw gets his first event victory in the truck pull with an awesome time of 40.56 seconds. Bjornsson finished second. Terry Hollins was third. Zydrunas Savickas could only manage fourth. Mike Burke dropped some points as he finished sixth. There seems to be a mix of satisfaction and relief for Brian Shaw, but that win may have just breathed a little life into the big fella's title defense. With just 2 events still to come, Bjornsson has 46 points and continues to top the scoreboard. Shaw has moved within 4 points of the lead and leapfrogs Savickas in the process. Savickas is now 5 points back. Burke's chances took a hit. He's now 10 points off the lead. Brian Shaw was upstaged in the first 3 events, but he just delivered a devastating performance in the truck pull. And the march to a third title could be back on. We'll be back with more of the Commerce World's Strongest Man Final. Welcome back to the Commerce Hotel and Resort in Los Angeles, California, where today it's the Commerce World's Strongest Man Final taking center stage. And the challenges aren't getting any easier for our strongmen. Aaron, this is the 5th of 6 events. It's going to be a massive test, the squat lift.
Oh, yes, it is. And the first thing everyone will notice is that the 725-pound barbell is almost comically large. The legs, glutes, and back are going to feel its wrath. This could be epic because it'll probably take double digits to win this thing. American
Jerry Pritchett. The Arizona Strongman comes into this event in 12th place overall. But he can play spoiler here by beating some of the top athletes. Right now, the top mark of 8 repetitions is shared by 2 athletes. Warwick Brant of Australia and Lawrence Shaw of England each posted that number.
Brent, 725 pounds is like Jerry Pritchett having an adult male elk across his shoulders. This is incredible. Jerry looking strong and compact there, vertical upright chest. Right there you see a little hitch to his right, left of the screen. That's where the hip stability starts to come in. He's going to have to ring that in and dig deep and stay focused.
6 reps now for Pritchett.
Look at that focus and determination, Brent. This is just about the time where your body wants to fail, but you have to be disciplined in what you're doing. Dig deep into those quads and those glutes and those hammies, those calves.
11th rep for Pritchett. And that'll do it. So that will be the mark for the others to go after. Pritchett, the American, with 11.
Well, the squat lift is an event where you're only going to succeed if you're fully committed both physically and mentally because you're dealing with such a big weight, and Jerry Pritchett did exactly that.
Eddie Hall is another strong man who hasn't quite matched his expectations coming in. But we've seen that the reigning Britain's strongest man is very much in the argument for the most powerful legs in the competition.
Okay, Eddie.
And obviously that'll be useful here.
Making sure that you get that bar right, seated properly, is so important to start this event off on the right foot. First thing I'm noticing with Eddie Hall is he's bent more at the waist, where his torso leans forward and is not as vertical as Jerry Pritchett was.
There you go, Eddie! Squats! Squats!
You have to touch the bench each time. The rep to qualify. 11 is the number to beat.
And when you touch, and it's uneven, Brent, like you're seeing a couple times here with Eddie Hall, not only do you have to lift that weight, you have to control it because it starts to wobble and get top heavy. That's extremely, extremely more difficult.
He's already tied the mark, and now he's going to beat it.
Hall seeming to get his second win here, Brent.
Eddie Hall.
Woo, that might have been his last one, buddy, and it was.
14, and he's into the lead.
Easy, baby. If you had just lifted 10,150 pounds in the course of 14 reps, you'd probably be pretty fired up, too. Eddie might have said it was easy, but I guarantee you he pushed himself to the physical limit to crank out those reps.
That'll take us to the USA's Mike Burke, who enters the squat lift in 4th place overall. Mike is 10 points out of first, so the title may be out of reach, but a spot on the podium is still possible.
And squat.
Yeah, you see Mike being very careful and deliberate here, much more so than the last two competitors we saw. You wonder how much Mike Burke's got left in the tank. He's really feeling this strain here, Brent.
There's 3.
Okay.
And that's it. Mike Burke is in 6 with those 3 reps. From this angle, you can see just how massive that 725-pound barbell really is. Burke definitely felt that load on his legs, glutes, and hips before having to bow out with 3 repetitions. The next guy is a 3-time champion. From Lithuania, Zydrunas Savickas, the 38-year-old, is 3rd place overall, entering the squat.
Ready? Get it, squats!
Zydrunas' lower body is so strong, but that first rep kind of threw him off, Brent, got him off balance a little bit. Now he's smoothing things out, but there he was a little unbalanced there as well, Brent. When that weight with 725 pounds kind of herky-jerky side to side, not only has he got to lift it, but again, he's got to control and stabilize that. He's making his job much harder than it needs to be.
14 is the leading number. He still looks strong even with those bobbles.
Well, he says he's been kind of saving some things up in the qualifying rounds. This is where he's going to need all that extra energy.
Zydrunas Savickas. He's the new leader. 15 for Savickas. And he moved nearly 11,000 pounds in total with those 15 reps.
There might not be anybody better in the world at the static lifting events than the Lithuanian Bulldog. Now take a look at this, Brent. This is the foundation you want if you're going to be putting up 15 reps in the squat lift. Zydrunas' quads, hammies, glutes, and hip flexors just provide so much balance power.
Well, Brian's going to need something special here if he'd like to take home title number 3. But more realistically, this could be a case of damage limitation. He'll want to finish as close to Zydrunas Savickas as possible in the squat to keep from dropping too many points.
Well, Brent, with those tree trunk-sized legs, Brian should be able to throw up a pretty good number of reps here.
Squats!
Brent, 15's the number to beat here. And one of the things I'm noticing right out of the gate for Big Brian Shaw is he's a little bit more of a waist bender than Big Z was. That oftentimes can be an indication of some flexibility issues or lack of hip flexor strength. But the big mountain man from Colorado really seems to be getting his groove here.
There's number 9.
Looking good through 10, Brent. He's going to have to dig deep here, though.
And he checks out. 10 for Brian Shaw.
Help me up, help me up.
Well, that puts him in fourth in the squat lift. Shaw, you can tell, a bit disappointed.
Ladies and gentlemen, with
He obviously wasn't thrilled with the way he only put up 10 reps, but this really isn't an event built for guys that are 6'8". There's so much more movement involved when you're that tall.
Dropping points to Zaviskus for Shaw, and now you've got Hafthor Bjornsson, the overall leader from Iceland. He comes in with a 4-point advantage over Brian Shaw and 5 over Zydrunas Savickas.
If Hafthor can find some way to keep the lead after the squat lift, he could be the champion since he's been almost unbeatable in the Atlas Stones.
15 again is the number to beat.
Now, we talked about height being a disadvantage for Brian Shaw earlier. Well, Hafthor is a full inch taller. And Brent, that shift right there to me indicates he's feeling it already.
And he about lost it there a moment ago. He's got 3 so far.
Brent, you see how much movement he's got there in his lower half of his body. I always get nervous with that much weight and movement when the body's outside of its normal plane, because that's how I blew out and ruptured 2 patella tendons playing professional football.
Not exactly pretty, but he's fought his way through 6. And there's number 7.
Okay, help him. Good job.
And that's it for Bjornsson. Complete exhaustion.
Go and help him, fellas.
The mountain from Iceland, his parents among the Team Iceland fans there helping him along.
7 repetitions in the squat lift.
7 reps for Hafthor Bjornsson, and that ties him for 7th place here in the squat lift. Zydrunas Savickas stopped at 15 reps, doing exactly what he thought would be required to win. With every place in the standings worth a point, Brian Shaw was 4th, and that could be a killer blow. Hafthor Bjornsson will feel that pain too, as he tied for 7th. The 3-way battle for the championship that most expected has materialized. Savickas assumed the overall lead with 53 points. Bjornsson went from being up 4 points to down 1.5. Brian Shaw 2 points back. The Commerce Hotel and Resort in Los Angeles is a fitting location because the Commerce World's Strongest Man Final is about to have an ending that only Hollywood could imagine. The 6th and final event for the strong men competing for the most prestigious prize in strength athletics is the Atlas Stones.
Moving the 5 stones with a combined weight of nearly 1,700 pounds from the ground to the platforms will take overall body strength, speed, and athleticism. Basically, the complete strongman.
With a 1.5-point lead over Hafthor Bjornsson and 2 points over Brian Shaw, it's Zydrunas Savickas' title to lose. But Bjornsson and Shaw are very much alive. Either could win if they finish 2 places ahead of the Lithuanian in the Atlas Stones. And here's Brian Shaw, the 2-time champ. As we said, he's starting at a 2-point deficit right now, and his focus has to be putting up a great result. His fellow American Mike Burke realistically is locked into 4th place overall. He can't move up or down in the standings. All but the final 2 heats have finished up in the Atlas Stones. The time to beat is the 5 stones in 28.47, put up by Terry Hollins, but you have to expect our final 4 to go faster than that.
Ready?
Now, Brian Shaw has risen to the occasion before. Can he do it here again?
He's got to move fast, and he's off to a good start.
Brendan, looked like Mike Burke moved too fast, lost his balance, and knocked his pillar over. Brian Shaw has to be able to maintain his focus here. He's moving very, very quickly, but you see a little bobble right there and a little hop. You wonder if the big man's a little off his game with those distractions.
Not his cleanest performance. Hands off at 23.94.
Definitely disappointed as Mike Burke tries to recover and finish this thing out with some pride. And Brent, that performance by Brian Shaw just might have cost him this title.
23.94. Shaw goes in the lead, obviously, but you got 2 heavy hitters coming up. And Mike Burke, 5th in the Stones, 36.92.
Mike basically lost his launch point and plowed the platform right over. You have to wonder how much that distracted Brian Shaw. Brent, in sports, sometimes that's just the way the 285-pound ball bounces.
Here's the story. The leader after 5 events, Zydrunas Savickas, is guaranteed to win the title if he beats the time of Brian Shaw and also beats Hafthor Bjornsson head-to-head. He can also win if he finishes no worse than 1 place behind the higher finishing of those guys. And Hafthor Bjornsson's best chance is to win the Stones and hope Savickas is not second. It's out of Brian Shaw's hands now. He can just watch and hope.
Now, anatomically, Hafthor Bjornsson's got the advantage over the shorter Zydrunas Savickas, and Hafthor looking very good, but he's got to run a perfect race or Big Z's raw power will take over and make him pay. But he looked pretty good so far in that 330-pound stone.
On to the final stone, 410-pounder. Bjornsson's off. Now it's up to the time. Gotta beat 23:94, and he did! Zydrunas Savickas is the world's strongest man. And Shaw knows it's over. The 4th title for Big Z, joining elite company. Hafthor did what he could, but Big Z edging out Brian Shaw by .41 proved to be the difference.
Big Z had to sense he wasn't going to beat Hafthor, but that didn't matter. Finishing second ahead of Shaw gave him enough points to become the champion for a 4th time, as Big Z helpfully pointed out.
Bjornsson blazed his way through the stones, but it wasn't enough. Savickas edged out Shaw for second, and that provided him with the points he needed to regain the title. Had it been reversed and Shaw was second, Bjornsson would have been champion. A look at the final standing shows that Zydrunas Savickas was victorious by the narrowest of margins. Big Z finished with a total of 64 points, while Hafthor Bjornsson had 63.5. Brian Shaw had 61 points and will fill out the podium. Mike Burke was 4th. Now it's time to hand out some hardware, specifically to Zydrunas Savickas, the 2014 Commerce World's Strongest Man. On hand to present the Commerce Cup is John Griffo, the Director of Business Development at the Commerce Hotel and Casino. And for the 4th time in his legendary career, Zydrunas Savickas is the world's strongest man champion.
Yeah, Brenton, in the end, I think Big Z won his 4th title, not because of the way he maximized his strengths, but in the way he minimized his errors and weaknesses.
Well, that does it for the Commerce World's Strongest Man. We expected an epic battle between the planet's best strongmen, and that's exactly what we got. In the end, it was the legendary Zydrunas Savickas adding 1 more trophy to his already huge collection. For Aaron Taylor, I'm Brent Stover. So long from California.